am Professor Amy Keely, and this is Marketing 120. And it is going to cover sales, which is under the marketing P's. It is under the promotions. And under promotions is public relations, advertising and digital media, as well as sales. So they are all different modalities of selling to a client. And so I've got some notes that I want to make sure I cover as we go through this introduction. First, I have given sort of a little bit of an in-depth biography. I gave you my professional biography that I use when I do public speaking. And then some information about me, my interests, things that I go on about in my life. And I will tell you that I have always never really shared a lot about myself until I started teaching. And the reason why is what you'll find out and discover in this sales class is becoming what's known as a trusted advisor. It is sort of the peak of sales that you can ever get to, which is consultative selling. And we'll talk about that later on in the course. But it's where you create a relationship with somebody based on trust and knowledge. So I have learned to share a lot about myself so that you can feel when you read through it that I've spent a lifetime of learning, that I have worked in different corporations, large Fortune 500 corporations. I've worked globally, and I've been in global sales before, where I'm selling not just here in the US, but also internationally. And so I bring to this course a lot of marketing experience as well as sales. And there's different types of sales and there's different types of salespeople. And when I've taught sales in the past, I've always asked the question of my students, how many like to do sales? And almost no one raises their hand. And I get it. It's not necessarily everyone's cup of tea until you get into it. But I also asked the question, how many people have recommended a movie that someone has gone to based on your recommendation? And I'd say 90% of the class raises their hand. And I tell them, you just performed a sale, you just didn't get paid for it. So sales really isn't what you normally think of when you walk into a store and you have sales reps that are following you around, or someone's email blitzing you trying to sell you something. Those are extreme forms of sales, and we have, as a culture, in some ways have moved past that and are trying to, although that technique used to work a long time ago. It just doesn't work now. And you really have to, it can work. It just depends on your messaging and a lot of different things that go along with that we'll discuss, that are value add points when you're actually doing that. But I look at my dad. So my dad was in real estate. He was a sales guy. And my dad could walk up and talk to somebody and not know his product very well, and say, well, you know what, I'll get back to you. And he was so good at building a relationship with that person that person was willing to wait for my dad to contact him again and give him the information. I, on the other hand, can't really sell unless I take a deep dive down my product or service and I know it very well, so that if those questions come at me, then I can be able to answer them very quickly. But I've also morphed into where the relationship piece of it becomes very easy for me too, because it didn't come easy at first when it was sales. It was really practice, making mistakes. I'll tell you one sales call, I was on the phone and doing outbound sales, which means I'm picking up and calling businesses, and I couldn't get the words out of my mouth. I was like, oh, blah, 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 blah. And instead of just stopping and being mortified, I started laughing. And the person started laughing as well. And it dawned on me that they've made those same mistakes too. But when I was able to make fun of myself and get them to the point where they were laughing, built a really good rapport with them based on my blunder. So you can recover from really bad situations. So sales, once you get into it, it's really very formulaic. It's a process. And once you start to understand that, that becomes easier. Why is that important to you? Many of you may say, yeah, I've just got to check this box off and take this class. And what you need to do is rethink that, because when you are out in the job market, the first thing you do is a resume. And your resume is your first selling opportunity into an employer to get them interested in you. That is no different than filling out what's called an RFP, or request for proposal, where you put together a proposal for a company saying, these are my services. This is why I think you should pick me over the hundreds of other people that want your business. So you've done the exact same thing in the sales process. And then if you're fortunate enough, because of that proposal resume that you put, you might get invited to an interview. And an interview is no different than in the sales process, the presentation, when you're asked to come in and present to them. And the buyer can get a face-to-face look at you, you can answer questions, but it's an opportunity for you to build a rapport, because in sales, face-to-face, which is why I'm doing this video, so that you can see me versus some other professors that might just do an audio or a podcast. I want you to see my face, because that is how you build a rapport with somebody. It's the eye-to-eye contact that takes place. So there's a lot of that happens when you're doing sales. And so you have to think about it in terms of, how do I learn some of these skill sets of doing sales so that I can in turn sell myself to HR departments, to hiring managers, because I can tell you the same process that you go through in selling a product or service for a company is the exact same process that you do for selling your value to a company at the right price, hopefully, so that you both can have a mutual desire and mutual relationship that you build because of that. So as we go through this, when you look at different terms, you're going to hear the term lead, which means that's somebody that's in a pipeline that you've never talked to at all, no contact at all. It's really just cold. They have cold, warm, and hot. So I'm going to give you an overview of how this works. So a lead is someone that you've never talked to. A prospect, on the other hand, is somebody that you've identified that you think would be interested in your sales and services. And we'll talk about all this stuff later on in the different modules of this class. But there's also different types of the customer relationship. So for example, many people don't think about the fact that the word customer versus client, what's the difference? And the difference is that a customer is something very transactional. It's when you go to the grocery store, you get behind the counter and somebody's ringing you up, and you may make, a little chit chat with them, but you're not really building a rapport with them. Now, there is an opportunity that you could, because you get that person's line long enough and then that person recognizes you and, hey, how you doing? That's a relationship. And that turns in from a customer to a client. A client is somebody who you have a relationship with. And that, like I said, is the best type of relationship that you could possibly ever have with somebody. So for this class, there are some things that I need to make sure that you're aware of. So the first is that while there are short quizzes that are in the different modules every week, there isn't a midterm exam and there is not a final exam. Your work will be graded based on your performance of the activities that are the assignments that are in this course. And that might be writing assignments, discussion questions, the quizzes, projects that you'll be asked to work on. You will be doing that, and that will be counting towards your grade. And down below, I'll put this list as well so that you can see this as well. It's also it's a little bit of a self-directed class, but there are large chunks of it that are not self-directed. So you're going to see that there will be deadlines in here that you need to hit. And the reason why we do this is that in sales, you are the first commitment. You are the face of your company. When you say to somebody, well, I'll call you on Thursday, is that okay? And they say, yeah, call me on Thursday. If you don't call them on Thursday, they're going to start to say, wow, if they can't even call me on Thursday, then what kind of service am I going to get from them? And customers will make that inference. So you really have to be somebody who is very methodical and puts things in your calendar and sets reminder timers for you. It's also your communication style. So for example, if you like to text people, but you find out that your client prefers email, then you are the one that has to adjust your communication style to match what your client is. That means you start sending emails, because if you use two different channels of communication and they don't like text messages and they keep ignoring you, you're never going to get far in the communication of that with try to sell that customer, because you're on two different planes. So it's really important that you match your communication style. So I have a communication style and it's listed in the syllabus. So please make sure that you read that. The other one is that it's not self-paced because we do have group projects. So you will have to meet with your group at very specific times, whatever is set by your group, but you'll have to make those times. And then there's also an assignment where you have to engage me and I'm the prospect. So while there is some flexibility on your reading assignments, your quizzes and things like that, there are some deadlines. So please make sure that you look in those modules and make sure that you read them carefully. One of the things I had just briefly mentioned is that typos and grammar are huge. You cannot have typos and grammars. And I've seen companies that I've come in where I've been asked to take over, let's say, the marketing department and manage it, and realize that they've lost opportunities in the past because of typos or grammar issues, because sometimes customers don't care and some of them are very picky. So it becomes important that every email that you send out, every sales proposal, is looked at very carefully, proofread very carefully. And I know that sometimes it becomes very difficult when you're trying to juggle school and also maybe you're working in the workplace. I highly recommend getting the free version of Grammarly. What you can do is take an email and be able to copy it in, or they sometimes have a plugin if you've got like Firefox that it will proof anything that's online. But it will tell you, and it's not the full version by any means, but at least anything is better than nothing. So highly recommend Grammarly, and I'll put that in the link as well. Again, there'll be a variety of ways that you're evaluated in this course, so it's not one simple thing. Reading assignments, quizzes, discussion questions, projects, as I mentioned. And again, why is this important is that you're going to be learning skills that are going to help you in your career as you either go out looking for a job, but more importantly, as you try to move up the chain of command. Many people get stuck in this because they forget that they are still selling themselves within a company. You have to find people that believe in your work, and you have to be able to showcase your work to people. So those are the things where you continue to sell into a company, yourself and your value. So it's important that you think about that as well. So it becomes really important that in this 16-week course, I'd highly recommend that you reach out to me. Build a relationship with me, as you should with all of your professors. And the reason why is that we are very connected in our area of discipline. I've spent 20 years working in the workforce management industry, working for the staffing companies like Kelly Services and big corporations like that. So I have many people especially in LinkedIn, which is a great sales tool. And we'll talk about LinkedIn because it's phenomenal for being able to make the sales process so much easier. But we can help you. And I have students from even my classes 10 years ago that still reach out to me for marketing advice. There's many of them that's because they've done very well in my courses, but I actually still stay in contact with some that didn't do very well in my courses, but they realize that I'm now their trusted advisor. I'm their mentor. They come to me when they're having, issues. And I really enjoy that. I enjoy being able to help students, as their career progresses. And that's the commitment that I make it to you as well, is that if you take any of my classes, I am more than happy to continue to offer mentorship even after, because I'm more interested in not just your success in my class, but your success in the career. So again, your other professors are like that as well. So again, they can help you reaching out within your discipline, finding contacts for you, maybe being a reference for you. But that all begins because of the relationship that you build with that professor so that they actually want to help you. So in online classes, that becomes a little bit more challenging, but you can, we have WebEx meetings that we can do. I have my office hours that are listed in the syllabus. So please take advantage of them. There will be participation points, and there will be extra credit that's available. And I also, in this getting started section, have some things that are very unique to me. You will be given access to the Steve Jobs commencement speech, which I can't even tell you the number of times I've watched it. Steve Jobs is one of the best salespeople in the tech industry, that they would fill an auditorium to listen to him do product sales. So in watching the commencement speech, I will also walk you through what I found to be very meaningful and things that over the 1,000 times that I probably watched it along with my students, that I still gain knowledge from him in that. And I have some other videos that I want you to watch that I think will help prep you for being successful in the course and also within your career here at LCC. But I am looking forward to working with you and helping you understand how to be able to enhance your sales ability. And especially if you're not good in sales and you think you're not good in sales, trust me, you can learn the skills to be better, than you are. So again, some people are introverted. They don't like sales. That's fine. But if you learn how to at least present yourself in a little bit better, and it has helped you, again, hopefully it'll help you, because one of the things to consider, and even though many people don't like sales, in times of inflation, in times of recession and layoffs, in most cases, sales is the last group to be laid off. And only if you are a really poor salesperson, because they always need to bring in money. And that's what the sales element does for companies, is we bring in the money. And that's why, for example, people see us at the golf course, they see us at dinner and think, oh, they're having so much fun. And there's a little bit of a fun element to it. But on the other hand, what people don't realize is that my brain is always on. I'm thinking about strategy constantly. I'm having to remember names, schools that people went to, products that they've used in the past. All of that thing becomes in my head a database on that particular client, so that I can then know how better to build a relationship with them, where their pain points are that I can use to sell my product or service. So it's not as easy as just going golfing. There is a lot of things on, and they make for really long days. Sometimes, we go out, for lunch, and people think they don't even know what we're doing when we are driving around looking for sales clients, going to meetings, always having to have our brain on and thinking, how do I strategize? What am I hearing? So it's a lot more complex than people give it. But on the other hand, once you get into the habit of doing it and you make it more like a routine, it becomes very natural. Okay, I didn't start out as a salesperson, but I've learned to be a very good salesperson because of using all these things that you'll learn in this class and that you'll develop over time. So again, I am excited to have you in this class and look forward to reaching out to you and being able to have dialogue, even though this is an online setting, that you're more than welcome to come to my office on campus or schedule some meetings with me. But so happy reading the material and watching the videos, and you'll have another video from me in the next modules through the 16 weeks where I'll try to give you an overview of the chapter. But thanks, and enjoy having you here.